August Chandra.
So, hi, good morning. All good? कुछ लोग बारिश में फंस गए. So we are already done with the that social religious reform. And one last topic is remaining in the social religious reform. That is reforms in the Parsi religion or Zoroastrianism. Okay? So Parsi religion. Later on, when we are in the topic of the art and culture, so there we'll discuss that it is one of the oldest religion in the world. If Sanatan Hindu Dharma is considered as one of the oldest, so as the Parsi religion also. In fact, when we read about it, so we see the cross references of both the religions in their textbooks. So, for example, that in the holy text of the Parsi religion, Zen Avesta, there are references to the Rigvedic religion. So, that's a topic that will be dealt over there. But then, why it is called as a Parsi religion? In fact, the name is Zoroastrianism. It because it emerged in the Persia, so very often it is called as the Parsi religion. Then moreover, there are some sort of similarities between the Parsi religion and then Vedic Hinduism also. So, for example, that one of the similarity is basically the worship of the Agni, okay, fire. So now let's come to the orthodox practices. Religious practices will be dealing in the art and culture, but here orthodox practices. So Parsis are, if you look at the Parsi society, no doubt that they are the richest people of India. Then they form top 1% of the Indian population as far as the finances, their capital, their wealth is concerned. Then, moreover, as you know, some of the names, Tatas, okay, Parsis, then a good number of the people, okay, many, let's say, for example, Sapurji Palanji group, the group which has created the Bharat Mandapam in this G20. So they all are the Parsis and one of the richest people. But then orthodoxy is one of the part of this Parsi religion. Then and this orthodoxy is at many levels. So for example, one of the orthodoxy is that their after death rituals, very extreme after death rituals. What they do that generally in majority of the religions in the world, either the body is cremated or buried. Then so it is cremated or buried, but here in this case they don't cremate the body, they don't bury the body. What they were doing previously was leaving the dead body fallow at an open space, and it was left for the vultures, okay, scavengers to feed on the body. And in Bombay there was this center which was known as Silence Tower, where it is still there, though nowadays more than 95% of the Parsis they have gone with the burial practices, but still there are 5 to 6% Orthodox people who go ahead with this particular ritual of the leaving the dead body fallow in the open space. Then apart from it, as compared to the other religions in India at that point of time, there were orthodoxy related to the women also. And there is one more unique fact about the Parsi religion which does not exist in any other religion. That is the purity of the blood concept. So purity of the blood concept, Parsis right from the beginning they maintain that you don't become Parsi by conversion. Okay? In other religions, one can become a Hindu by converting, one can become a Muslim by converting, Buddhist by converting, Jain by converting, Christian by converting, but then there is no conversion in the Parsi religion. They maintain the purity of the blood. If you're not born in a Parsi family, you're not a Parsi. Then, so this is also one of the biggest orthodoxy. Though not much change has happened in this regard even till this point of time, but slow changes are happening. Then, so keeping all these things in the view, there was a need of the reform in the Parsi religion. And who were the initial people associated with it? So initial people were Dadabhai Naroji, Fardunji Naranji, SS Bengali. So they initiated the reform in Parsi religion to shade away their orthodox outlook. At the same point of time, go ahead with the normal after death rituals like burial or cremation, and they are also talking about the upliftment of the women, education of the women, and for this purpose they created an organization which was known as Rehnumai Majdyasan Sabha. Moreover, Dadabhai Naroji, he also released a reform magazine, and name of the reform magazine was Ras Goftar. So mention, right, that reform in Zoroastrianism. mention reform in Zoroastrianism. So in this you mention, also known as Parsi religion. So mention, it is one of the oldest religion of the world. It is one of the oldest religion of the world. Like other religions in India, it was also mired with mired with many orthodoxies. Mired with mired with many orthodoxies. Full stop. Then further you write after it. Reform in Parsi religion was initiated by Dadabhai Naoroji, Fardunji Naranji, you can see the spelling of these names, SS Bengali and SS Bengali. And they created a reform organization. Rehnumai Majdasan Sabha. Rehnumai Majdasan Sabha. It's written here, you can see. Full stop. They stood for giving up on orthodoxies, extreme death rite rituals, so right here RITE, not वो फंडामेंटल राइट वाला राइट नहीं लिखना, ठीक है. सो डेथ राइट रिचुअल्स एंड they favored upliftment of women and their education. Then they were also against child marriage. Now understand why child marriage was still an issue in the Parsi religion, in all the religions in India. Hinduism, Islam, okay, then Christianity I would not say, but Parsi religion. We have already seen the example where Rakhma Bai case. She was a Parsi lady and then she was married when she was just a child. So ये भी add कर लो, ठीक है. They were also against child marriage and favored widow remarriage. Then mention Dadabhai Naoroji released a reform magazine known as Ras Goftar. Then, so this is what is about the reform in the Parsi religion, and reform in majority of the religion now it is over. Okay. So now after it, now understand. So topic हमारा खत्म हो गया, and we'll start with the next part, which is the freedom struggle part. So freedom struggle part में the very first topic that we are going to start with is the factors which favored the rise of nationalism. ठीक है, it is important, and in fact from this particular topic you can address many questions. ठीक है, and बार बार मैं ये बात emphasize करूँगा कि when you have been asked a question, कभी भी, कल भी ये बात की थी, that you have been asked a question from a particular topic, if your thought process is limited to that particular topic, so you will not be able to write very beautiful answer, very good answer. You will have to look at it, that your mind must be open, that you must be searching, researching answers in the other topics also. Then, so other topics also. In fact, maybe history का question answer तुम्हें थोड़ी बहुत polity से भी मिल जाए. ठीक है? So this interdisciplinary approach you must maintain. That maybe polity question you must get good ideas from the historical background. Then, so this you will have to do. And in fact, in society also, okay, you may get help from the social movements that we have studied. Okay? So you may get help from this one. And maybe from there also you can incorporate some parts into your history questions. So please maintain this interdisciplinary approach. Then, so let's come to, you write a major title, Factors which favored the rise of nationalism. Factors which favored rise of nationalism. So now this question I'm leaving to you, will go into elaboration, but first of all, barring 1857 revolt, that already we have written that 1857 revolt significance was that it implanted the seed of the nationalism. Then, so leaving that particular aspect, tell me that what other factors have contributed towards the rise of nationalism. Education, we can say. Okay? Education is one of the vehicle of the rise of nationalism. Then what else? Batao? Transportation. What kind of transportation? Very good, exactly. Faster mode of transportation and communication. So we can say that faster mode of transportation and communication. Transportation was already there right from the inception of the, that we can say that civilizations. But then, what is important? Faster mode. Then what else? Yeah, please. Literature. Okay? So printing press has a very important role in the propagation of the nationalist ideas. Then what else? You are very right that all the three things that you have said. There are many factors. We have already seen, I know that you know, but when it is asked, so then we don't know that what to say, what not to say. So we'll go ahead with that some unique titles also. Okay? And moreover, it must also be one of your approach that whenever you're writing answers, so if you get some unique quotations, some unique headings, then and attractive headings, so obviously it fetches more marks. So let's start with the very first one. I would start with very first, I would say this as the collision of the interest. Collision of the interest. Now understand what do I mean by the collision of the interest. So collision of the interest, first of all, very first thing, okay, that India is for Indians. This is one thing, okay, that India is for the Indians. But who is ruling India? British. Okay? Is India their motherland? Then in what capacity they are exploiting us, they are excruciating us, just being a ruler, just with their brute power. So with the use of their brute power, they have controlled the resources of this country. They have controlled the politics of this country, economy of this country. So they are controlling politics, economy, and then also all the resources of this country just by using their brute force. Then, so brute force. But on the other hand, any such land is meant for the people of inhabitants of that area. So what Indians are getting, are they in the leadership of the country? No. They are not in the political leadership of the country. Are they the big industrialist of this country? No. Who is big industrialist? The British. Then, are they the big traders of this country? No. All the trade is basically one-way free trade for the British. Are the Indian artisans benefiting from the British rule? No, they are not benefiting. Are the Indian peasants benefiting from the British rule? They are not benefiting, because what they are doing, what they have to do, they have to pay hefty amount of taxes. So what we are able to see, that just because of the presence of the British authority who have dominated us in economic sphere, political sphere, okay, and all the sources of the production, Indians' rights has been pushed to the very downward zone. And this is where we will develop this feeling that till the time British are here, our interest cannot be served. The interest of the Indian can only be served when they are thrown out of India. So एक बहुत सिंपल सी बात है, ठीक है. सबसे पहली चीज जो लोगों को हिट करती है, द वेरी फर्स्ट थिंग विच हिट्स द पीपल इज देयर इकोनॉमी, is their economic status. So what other things cannot change, economic status can change everything. Then, so this is what was happening in India, that people started to regard British as their common enemy. Then, so mention in this one that the very presence of British in India, the very presence of British in India meant that Indians would be denied of their basic economic, political, and social rights. Full stop. All the sources of production were in the hands of British authority. All the sources of production were in the hands of British authority. And interest of Indians was not served in their own country. Full stop. They developed a common feeling. That the interest of Indian community cannot be served. While British are present in India. Then mention. They felt the need of overthrowing British rule from India. They felt the need of overthrowing British rule from India. Then they felt the need of overthrowing British rule from India. Then, so this is what is about the collision of the interest. What is that? British are present, Indian interest cannot be served. So both the interests are colliding. And now let's come to the next one. So write a title. Just give me 1 minute where I have kept the pen. So second one, title you mention. Number 2, unification of grievances. Due to administrative unification of India. So now understand, unification of grievances, meaning that people's complaints, then people's issues, then their grievances. So they got united. And how they got united? The reason is that administrative unification of India. So administrative unification, what do we mean by this? Just look at the example. देखो ये अपने आप में एक complete sentence है, ठीक है? हमें यहाँ समझने के लिए I will have to give you examples. Then, so understand that what is this administrative unification? To rule entire India, British needed to bring entire India, all the different provinces and the monarchies under one central authority. Then, so you have seen n number of the attempts by the British authority to centralize the Indian administration. For example, in 1833, Governor General became Governor General of India. Then, so Governor General of India. This is the unification of the entire India. Centralization meaning that unification is also happening. For example, that to unify the different parts of India, there are many policies. One of the policies is the land revenue settlement itself. So that such a big country like India, 3 revenue settlements, then Rayatwadi, Permanent, Mehalwari. Then, so this itself is an administrative unification. So for example, Rayatwadi में देखो कौन-कौन से state थे. So we generally call Bombay and Madras presidency. But in Madras, what all states are there? If we go by the today's connotation. So today's connotation, it has a Telangana, Andhra, then Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka. Then some parts of the Odisha would also be there. Similarly, when we talk about the Bombay presidency, so Bombay presidency, what it will include? It will include today's Maharashtra, it will include today's Gujarat, it will include some parts of the Madhya Pradesh, it will include Rajasthan, it included Sindh of Pakistan and Balochistan also. So, can you see that such a long stretch, okay? Such big number of the states and big population is put under one system. So it itself is a unification, administrative unification. And why British are doing this administrative unification? For ease of administration, for their control. Then, so one way they were unifying different parts of the country administratively for their ease of administration, but this also resulted into unification of the grievances. एक simple सा example है, ठीक है? In Madras presidency, just take the example of the Rayatwadi itself. We talked about many such, take Madras and Bombay. These many states are there. So if there is any issue with this particular Rayatwadi settlement, so where these people will approach? Judiciary, ठीक है? All of them are approaching. Madras का जो peasant है, he has also the same problem. Bombay का जो peasant है, he has also the same problem. They are approaching the judiciary. When they are approaching the judiciary, they have same problems. They are feeling that our problems are same, and they are also feeling that who is the reason of it? The British authority. So it is also leading to the unification of the grievances, and which is further leading to development of a sharing of their emotions with each other, that what they are feeling. Moreover, एक हिंदी में phrase है, दुश्मन का दुश्मन दोस्त होता है, ठीक है? This is what was happening at this point of time. So this unification of the grievances, we'll write this part, ठीक है? पर एक तीसरा आते हैं, ठीक है? Third one, so अभी लिखना नहीं, I am just writing. So what we mentioned, you guys only mentioned, faster mode of transport and communication, ठीक है? So faster mode of transport and communication. So tell me, what is this faster mode of transport? Railways, ठीक है? So railways is the most important. Then now understand. So time and again we have discussed this part, that the first railway line in India was laid down between Thane to Mumbai, ठीक है? 32 kilometers, 1853. But then the railways development was very faster in India then, and within a short span of time, the railways, and this short span of time I'm telling you, by 1853, 32 kilometers. By 1900, 40,000 kilometer railway line was laid down. That is exactly 25,000 miles. Then, so 25,000 miles of railway line was laid down. So this development, as you know, that railway, faster mode of communication, faster mode of transportation, people can go from one part to another part in a less number of days, less number of hours, increased contact, and increased that not just increased contact, but wherever people were not going earlier, now just because of the railway, they are able to go to those all places. But then I will tell you one such phrase which was used by a quotation of the one very famous British officer. His name was Edwin Arnold. Edwin Arnold in 1865, he made a prophecy. And what was his prophecy? Understand. So he said that railways may do for India. Okay? Railways may do for India what dynasties have never done. What the genius of Akbar could not effect by his good governance, what Tipu Sultan could not affect by his cruel government, railways have made India truly a nation. So this is what was his statement, his prophecy, and that's a reality. That एक बार फिर से इस दोबारा इसको सुनो, that what he said, that railways may do for India what dynasties have never done. Basically, he is referring to all the monarchies who were there before the British rule, and then also before 1850s. Then, so they have not done for India. And then he says, what the genius of Akbar could not effect by his good government. Meaning that Akbar has a good intention to create good things in India, but even he was not able to do that. And that's also a reality. Why it is a reality? When you read the medieval history, so what was the last extent of the Akbar's rule in India? Ahmednagar. Okay? And where is Ahmednagar? Maharashtra. So basically he was not able to control beyond Maharashtra. Then his rule was only till Maharashtra. Though it was in north, it was there till Kabul, but in southern part it could not reach properly. Moreover, Akbar had to face very stiff challenge from the Ahoms in Assam. So then there also his expansion did not happen. In fact, expansion in Assam never happened during the Mughal rule. That Ahoms always defended their territory. So it never happened. So even after his good intention, his good government policy, he was not able to unite the entire country. Then he says that what the cruelty of the Tipu Sultan could also not do. So Tipu Sultan wanted a violent overthrow of the British rule from India. He tried to enlist the help of the Afghanistan ruler Zaman Shah then, and then he wanted to create the kingdom in the southern India with a desire to control Maratha politics also, but then he was not able to do because he was eliminated by the British. And then he says that railways have truly made India a nation. Why and how? So just because of the connectivity which it has established. Then, so railways played a major role. Then communication में क्या आएगा? Telegraph services and modern postal system. So who was the father of the modern postal system and telegraph services? बताओ, Dalhousie. ठीक है? Very often Dalhousie is referred as the maker of the modern physical infrastructure of India. So Dalhousie has three important initiatives. One, basically political वाले में doctrine of lapse, ठीक है? But when it comes to infrastructure, so one is the railway. It was under Dalhousie that railway development started. It was his plan. Second, telegraph services. Then, and third is the modern postal system. So these particular three things, they revolutionized the infrastructure of the India of the 1850s. Then, so mention, you write, पहले ये वाला part लिख लो. Second one, unification of grievances due to administrative unification of India. Then, so in this you mention, for the ease of administration, for the ease of administration, for the ease of administration, British unified length and breadth of India. British unified length and breadth of India in few administrative zones. In few administrative zones. Then, with this unification, grievances of the people also started to get unified. Then, which further led to development of the feeling that British authority is the common cause, of all their problems. Then the third heading you write, faster mode of transport and communication. In this you write, so Dalhousie part I'm mentioning over here itself, ठीक है? So that कहीं अलग से उसको inform नहीं करना पड़े. So mention, Dalhousie is often regarded as maker of the modern infrastructure in India. Then he emphasized on the development of he emphasized on the development of faster mode of transport and communication. Faster mode of transport and communication, like railways, like railways, telegraph services, railways, telegraph services, and modern postal system, and modern postal system. Done. Then mention the first railway line. Paragraph change करके लिखना. The first railway line in India. First railway line in India was laid between Bombay to Thane. Bombay to Thane. In brackets you can write 32 kilometers. 32 kilometers. In the year 1853. In the year 1853. By 1900, 1900, 25,000 miles. 25,000 miles, that is approximately 40,000 kilometer. Okay? So approximately 40,000 kilometer. I hope you know the equation. Into 1.6. Okay? That's how you get the thing. अच्छा एक बात ध्यान रखना in exam. I think I have shared with you. Have I shared that question of geostationary satellite? देखो एक और टाइप का क्वेश्चन होता है which UPC often gives. Then what they will give you, that they asked in 1 year paper, they asked about that what is the distance of the geostationary satellite from the equator, okay, or from the earth. So then the distance is basically 36,000 kilometer, okay, and the figures which were given 36,000, 24,000, okay, and then few more figures were given. So what they gave, that 36,000 kilometer is the distance, but then in the option it was written all of them were in miles. Okay? So all of them were in miles, and then you needed to be very careful. So what would be the answer? 24,000 miles. Okay? So ये ध्यान रखना that they just change the unit in the options. Okay? Now let's come back to this part. So approximately 40,000 kilometer. Then mention one British officer, Edwin Arnold. One British officer, Edwin Arnold, made a prophecy in 1865. Made a prophecy मतलब भविष्यवाणी, ठीक है? Made a prophecy in 1865 and mention his prophecy. In quote unquote you write, railways may do for India. Railways may do for India what dynasties have never done. Railways may do for India what dynasties have never done. What the genius of Akbar could not achieve by his good government, comma, nor the cruelty of Tipu Sultan, then hyphen comma, mention railways have made India truly a nation. Railways have made India truly a nation. Then so then अब पैराग्राफ चेंज करके लिखो फिर से वापस. Railways facilitated faster circulation of faster circulation of nationalist and the nationalist ideas. Faster circulation of nationalist and the nationalist ideas. Then similarly, modern postal system, modern postal system and telegraph services further facilitated in the growth of nationalist ideas and literature. Nationalist ideas and literature. Done. So this is what is about the railway wala part, or faster mode of transport and communication. Okay. So now let's go into the other topics. Okay. So as you guys said that education, but which education we are going to refer here? The first would be the Western education. Okay. So number 4 you can mention Western education. So listen, when it comes to Western education, first of all, a good number of Indians had a exposure of studying in Britain and then working in Britain. So they were also exposed to the ideas which inspired the Europe. If we talk about the Europe, so Europe has a blot in their history. What is that blot? The dark ages of the medieval period. Then, so dark ages of the medieval period, in fact, why these age? Basically before that, somewhere around 1000 to 1300, this basically is called as dark ages because of the terrorism. And terrorism of whom? Terrorism of the religions, institutions, and that is church. So such was the terror in the society that no scientific development can happen. In fact, you must have heard, or maybe if you haven't heard, so you try to search those stories related to the scientific inventions of that time, and the scientists and the astronomers, they were not able to predict, or they pose their ideas before the people because church will not accept it. So for example, one of the view of the church was the earth is flat. Then, and if anybody says that earth is not flat, earth is round, so then he was hacked to death by burning the body, then alive. So such was the terrorism at that point of time, that nobody can go against the view of the church. So now, but the reality is that when this kind of extreme measures are there in the society, that gives birth to the new things then, and the reformation in the society. So people will be terrorized for a shorter period of time, but they will not be terrorized for the time immemorial. And this is what happened. So finally, the Reformation period, the European Renaissance started, and this European Renaissance was inspired by large number of the thinkers and the philosophers who started to motivate the people of the Europe. So these thinkers, can you name some of them? Some of the thinkers and philosophers of Europe who inspired? So Socrates थोड़ा पुराना हो गया, ठीक है? We are just talking about the dark ages, ठीक है? Socrates, we can write his name, गलत नहीं होगा, but in the dark ages, in the Renaissance age, there are other people. So Voltaire, Montesquieu, John Locke, J.J. Rousseau, Thomas Hobbes, Jeremy Bentham, James Stuart Mill. Then, so these were the people who inspired the Europe then at this point of time, and their ideas of equality, fraternity, natural right, human right, then liberty. French Revolution is also one of it. Then, so these all ideas inspired the Europe. Then, and then Europe translifted itself from the chains of the Dark Ages to the age of Renaissance. Once Indians are working in the Europe, they had the first-hand experience in the Europe. They were also inspired by these ideas. And moreover, one more thing, the inaugural of the Western education in India, basically English education in India, also proved to be momentous to the Indians. So you remember those debates which we were having in 1813, that mode of education, what must be taught in India? 1 lakh rupees was allocated for the education. You remember Charter Act of 1813? So that's the time when the decision has been taken that English medium would be there and English subjects would be there, European subjects would be there. So in the European subjects, obviously, we'll be reading about the thinkers and the philosophers then. So this uh, inaugural of the English education was also very important for the Indians then, because we were also exposed to these ideas and we were getting inspiration. Moreover, some Indian people, they went to Britain, they were studying over there. When they came back from Britain to India, they found that in India, the environment is more of a slavery. And in Britain, it was not of a slavery. In fact, I'll tell you one example which we have not gone into, the Gandhi's example. Okay? When we are going to talk about the Gandhi, when Gandhi studied in Europe, he has altogether different view of the Britain, because he never faced a big racial discrimination in the Britain. He was having a very good opportunity over there. He was not discriminated much on the basis of his color. In fact, when he was going to Britain for studying law, so his mother was very concerned that they were vegetarian family and how come he will be surviving in the European country because they don't eat vegetarian. But to his surprise, he found many vegetarian societies over there, and which led him, or which actually helped him in his survival in a very effective manner. So Gandhi had a very positive view of the Britain, but his positive view of the Britain completely changed when he was in South Africa. So the behavior of the British in Britain was different than the behavior of the British in the colonies then. So this is what was happening to many Indians, that when they are in Britain, they found that environment was good, but when they are in India, they found that the same British, they have altogether different attitude. So now, in India, they created organizations. They started to ask to the British authority. They started demanding the basic rights for Indians, and as such, they started to forge a nationalistic identity because of this education aspect. So mention in this. So start with title लिख लिया ना, Western education. In your, yes, you write. The inaugural of Western education, the inaugural of Western education proved to be, the inaugural of Western education proved to be highly momentous, proved to be highly momentous in growth and rise of nationalism. In growth and rise of nationalism. Full stop. The thinkers and the philosophers, who inspired age of Renaissance in Europe, age of Renaissance in Europe, the thinkers and philosophers who inspired age of Renaissance in Europe also became inspiration to Indian leaders. Also became inspiration to Indian leaders. For example, so you write some names. For example, John Locke, Voltaire, Montesquieu, J.S. Mill, Jeremy Bentham, J.J. Rousseau, Thomas Hobbes, etc. These names you can write. Visible? Yeah. Thomas Hobbes, etc. Then mention, paragraph change करके लिखना. A good number of Indians had first-hand experience. A good number of Indians had first-hand experience of working, first-hand experience of working in Europe. First-hand experience of working in Europe. When they returned from Europe, when they returned from Europe, when they returned from Europe, they found environment in India, they found environment in India was highly Slavish. Environment in India was highly Slavish. Full stop. They started to ask basic questions. They started to ask basic questions regarding the rights of Indians. On the non-fulfillment of these demands, they started to create political organizations. Against British authority. Done. So this is what is about the role of the Western education. Okay? I think it was number 4. Is it number 4? So let's write number 5. So number 5, you mention growth of printing press and vernacular literature. Growth of printing press and vernacular literature. So later also, after the independence part, we'll talk about the growth and development of the press in India. So that would be a bigger topic, but here just for the reference we are writing. So the very first printing press in India, already we have mentioned, Portuguese are the one who brought it in India. And then after, when Portuguese have brought it in India, so slow development has happened. But then from 1780 onwards, we have seen the major development or major impetus to the growth of the newspaper and magazines in India. So 1780 onwards, there was a new era for the growth of newspapers. What was the name of the magazine in first newspaper of India? Bengal Gazette. Okay? So Bengal Gazette released by James Augustus Hickey in 1780. And he was an Irish person. Don't go by the name. He was not an English. He was a person from the Ireland. And in fact, this paper of the James Augustus Hickey was not able to sustain or survive for a longer period of time because he wrote a very sensational article about wife of the Warren Hastings. And then after he was arrested and he was put into the jail. वैसे ये crime है, ठीक है? He must have written about the Warren Hastings, not about the wife. कुछ ज़्यादा लग गई मिर्ची. So then he was put into the jail. But then after, many other gazette newspapers came into being. Calcutta Gazette, India Gazette, ठीक है, Bombay Gazette. तो gazette की भरमार पड़ गई उसके बाद. And then there was a good growth of the Indian newspaper scenario also. So for example, after 1858, the growth was very, very good. So what are the initial newspapers of India at this point of time, in between 1858 until the India's independence? So can you tell some important names from the Indian newspapers after 1857 revolt? Which one? Indian Mirror, good. Indian Mirror, Bombay Chronicle, then Kesari, Maharatta, Bengali, ठीक है, Amrita Bazar Patrika. One of the very important newspaper was Amrita Bazar Patrika, Hindu Prakash, and so as the Hindu. So can you tell me that oldest surviving newspaper of India. Surviving. The Hindu. So the Hindu, actually, if I'm right, so the publication date exactly is 1895. Will it be the oldest surviving newspaper? Oldest surviving newspaper, to your surprise, is Times of India. 1838. Then, so 1838, the name was Bombay Service Times at that point of time. But then name changed many a times, but then it survived. And second oldest, the regional vernacular literature is the Punjab Kesari. So it is also one of the oldest surviving newspaper of India. So Punjab Kesari was always there in the Punjabi language, and then Times of India was in the English language. Then, so 1838 was the year in which Bombay Service Times was created, and then it was renamed as Times of India, and it continued like this. So the ownership of this particular newspaper, it changed from the British group to the Bennett Common Group, and still it operates, the Bennett Common Groups operate this. Then one more newspaper which is also one of the oldest, and it is also surviving. It is one of the oldest, that is Amrita Bazar Patrika. So what is the right now name of this particular Patrika, in which form? ABP News. Okay? So that is Amrita Bazar Patrika. So they are still surviving. So many of the newspaper houses, printing houses are still there. So mention that Portuguese were the first to introduce printing press in India. Portuguese were the first to introduce printing press in India. Then mention, बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं लिखना है हमें, ठीक है? इसमें आगे लिखो, the first newspaper of India was Bengal Gazette. Bengal Gazette, released by James Augustus Hickey. James Augustus Hickey in 1780. In 1780. Then mention the second half of the 19th century. The second half of the 19th century saw very good growth of second half of 19th century saw very good growth of Indian vernacular press, and also English press. Full stop. Large number of newspapers and magazines were released at this time, which includes, so you write these names which I am writing, which includes, so start with Bombay Chronicle, Indian Mirror, Amrita Bazar Patrika, The Hindu, Bengali, Hindu Prakash, Kesari, and Maharatta. Kesari and Maharatta. Full stop. It facilitated the growth of nationalism in India. It facilitated the growth of nationalism in India. Done. So this is what is about the press part. Okay. So after the press, let's go into the next one. So this was fifth. Number 6, you write rise of educated middle class. So now we have written, we can call it as a new middle class also. Okay? So the new middle class of India has that they have risen to reality because of their education. Okay? So when we talk about the Indian society, the general middle class of Indian society belong to the upper caste people. Okay? Upper caste people either from the Brahmin society or from the Rajput society or Kshatriya society, and then some of them from the Vaishya society. So generally, the traditional middle class was like this on the basis of the caste, then because they were enjoying many privileges in the society related to the land, related to the occupation. So they were comfortable in their lifestyle. But then the new middle class of India has completely risen on the basis of the education. So at least British have done one thing in a better way, that education was not imparted only on the basis of the privileged class, but it was open to everyone. There were many such intentions behind it, because they wanted, a good number of them, they wanted that there must be conversion into the Christianity, propagation of Christianity. So whatever be their intention, but it created a positive effect also. So large number of people from different sections of the society, upper class, middle class, take care, or upper caste, middle caste, take care, lower caste, then backwards, they all were educated. And then after getting their education, take care, they have come to the urban areas. Now one of the attribute of the urban areas, as you know, that in the urban areas, caste identities and religious identities are diluted. Okay? So diluted. For example, that in this class itself, you don't know each other's caste. Obviously, you don't ask. Then when you go to a chai ki tapri, you don't ask. Then कि ये इस वाले कप में किसने चाय पिया है. Then so in the, this is one benefit, or you can say that one positive thing in the urban areas, that caste and the creed identities are completely diluted. Then so here, when diluted, and then when these identities are not coming in between the communication of the people, so the normal sharing happens. Okay? Normal humane sharing happens, and on the basis of which love and care develops then, or maybe people are able to relate with each other. So these Indians, educated Indians, they started to introspect, okay, the old orthodox practices of India, which were detrimental to the interest of India. So they are looking back, reflecting back at those practices which were a hindrance. If they are able to identify British as the common enemy, so they are also able to identify that why we are not united against the British. So now they are advocating that we must not see ourselves on the basis of the caste, creed, religion, but what is the need of the day, that we must forge a common identity of the Indianity to fight against the common enemy. If we will be divided on the lines of the caste and religion, so we'll never be able to fight with the British authority. So this is what is the major role of the Indian middle class. And in fact, who are these Indian middle class? The reformers of this age. Okay? The reformers of this age who are advocating that shedding away of the caste identities, orthodoxies, superstitions, then, and increasing the bonhomie between the different groups. So when Indians are able to relate with each other, then only you can fight with the others. Then, so this is what is their contribution mentioned. You're right. So the traditional middle class of India, mainly belonged to higher castes, people who enjoyed many privileges by birth. Full stop. Then mention after it, many privileges by birth, full stop. The new middle class of India the new middle class of India came to reality on the basis of education. Came to reality on the basis of education. Basis of education. Full stop. The members of new middle class belonged to the members of new middle class belonged to various regions and religions. Belonged to various regions and religions. Regions and religions. And the new middle class, advocated to reflect on old orthodox discriminatory practices and they tried to forge a new identity. They tried to forge, F-O-R-G-E, forge a new identity of Indianity. New identity of Indianity to fight with the common enemy. To fight with the common enemy. Then, so this is what is about this particular part, which is rise of the educated middle class, okay, and what is their role in the creation of the Indianity. Then number next, okay, you write rediscovery of India's glorious past. Rediscovery of India's glorious past. Then, so now understand that what role it will play. First of all, that when it comes to that, what is this rediscovery? So basically, large number of the European scholars, okay? Large number of the European scholars, they have come to India. They are reading the Indian literature. Then, so they are reading the Ved, they are reading the Upanishad, and they upheld the wisdom of the Indian literature. So for example, we have already written in the last class, Theosophical Society. They developed faith in the Hindu Upanishads, and they said that Hindu Upanishads are the path to the divine wisdom. Then similarly, there are some names which we need to write. Many such people from the Europe, Max Muller from Germany, William Jones, okay, and then William Jones. So they all have come to India. They have created new organizations. They are studying the Indian literature, and they upheld the literary merit of the Indian literature. For example, Max Muller of the Germany, he was often regarded as, in India, he was often named as Moksha Mulla. Okay? Why Moksha Mulla? Meaning that moksha is related to Hinduism. And then moksha means that liberation, final salvation, the ultimate thing which has objective he has attained. So he became such a good expert of the Indian literature, Ved and Upanishad, that he himself seemed to be attained nirvana over here, or liberation over here. So they all upheld the merit of the Indian literature. So now when the European, they themselves are upholding the merit of the Indian literature, it is bringing some degree of the confidence in Indians then that we belong to a very superior civilization. Another thing, that the discovery of the Indus Valley civilization itself was a big inspiration. So discovery of the Indus Valley civilization, now the entire world got to know that most advanced civilization of the world was there in India. It also brought some degree of confidence among the Indians. So mention that a large number of European scholars, like Max Muller, William Jones, Max Muller, William Jones. Upheld the literary merit, upheld the literary merit of Indian Vedic text like Ved and Upanishad. Sorry. Ved and Upanishad. Then mention even Theosophist claimed Hindu Upanishads are the storehouse of Hindu Upanishads are the storehouse of divine wisdom. Storehouse of the divine wisdom. Then mention discovery of Indus Valley civilization also brought some degree of pride and confidence among Indians. Some degree of pride and confidence among Indians as Indus Valley was claimed to be most advanced civilization in the world. Advanced civilization in the world. Then, so now the next one you write after it. What is the number? 8. So, inspiration from revolutionary activities outside India. So now listen. So what is this inspiration from outside India? There are many such examples. So the very first example will quote that on the ruins of the Spanish and Portuguese Empire in South America, many nation states emerged. So Spain was a big imperial power then, so as the Portuguese, but then they were not able to sustain in this part of the world. So if this imperial powers can be defeated, it is also bringing some degree of confidence in Indians that they can also defeat the British. Moreover, British also faced many reverses in Afghanistan. Okay? So many reverses in Afghanistan, they were not able to defeat the people of Afghanistan. So that is also an inspiration. Then another inspiration was basically in 1905, small Japan defeated Tsarist Russia, a very big Russia. So if Japan can defeat such a big country, so then why not India can defeat India is a big country and UK is a smaller country. So these all things which were happening outside India, they were bringing some sort of confidence and inspiration in Indians. So mention on the ruins of Spanish and Portuguese empires. On the ruins of Spanish and Portuguese empires in South America, many nation states emerged. And many nation states emerged. Full stop. It broke the myth of imperial invincibility. It broke the myth of imperial invincibility. Further, full stop, British faced many reverses. Further, British faced many reverses in Afghanistan and Crimea. Further, British faced many reverses in Afghanistan and Crimea. Then, moreover, small Japan defeated. Moreover, small Japan defeated. See, one thing you guys can do. कुछ छूट गया है तो उसको वहीं छोड़ दो. जहाँ से मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना वहाँ से लिख लो. Because whatever that is left, so वो बाद में किसी की कॉपी से देख के लिख सकते हो तुम लोग, ठीक है? Otherwise, so if you are stuck at that place कि वो छूट गया है वही लिखना है तो और भी छूट जाएगा. So this you must keep in your mind. And this is what happens generally. If you go into your optional classes, na, this will happen n number of time. यहाँ तो थोड़ा dictation, I would say it is slow. But in your optional classes, you will not get a chance. In fact, they will not dictate at all. You must have seen. How many of you have joined the optionals? बताओ कितने लोगों ने optional को join कर लिया है? Good number of people. So they will not stop for dictation. अगर जो teacher वहाँ पे dictation के लिए रुक जाए तो course 6 महीने में खत्म होगा, ठीक है? यहाँ पे लिखते लिखते ना, that's the one thing. That's the one thing which will happen, ठीक है? तो एंड ऑप्शनल में कुछ ऑप्शनल्स में तो ऐसा हिसाब किताब है जहाँ पे कुछ लिखना भी नहीं होता है. दैट नो डिक्टेशन इज हैपनिंग, स्टिल द कोर्स इज गेटिंग ओवर इन 6 months, ठीक है? So but the optional courses must get over in 3.5 months and 4 months, not more than that. So this exercise over here, you have done a good job that you have joined the GS classes first, so that a writing habit will develop. You will not feel problem in your optional classes then. So optional classes में you will have to be more attentive, otherwise it is gone. And एक और problem बता रहा हूँ, people don't share their notes in optional classes, ठीक है? People don't share their notes in optional classes as if कि उन्हीं के notes पढ़ के तुम rank 1 लाओगे और उनको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. तो याद रखना ये चीज़ कि तुमको अपना notes बनाना होगा वहाँ पे, ठीक है? And वहाँ पे कोई friendship भी जल्दी नहीं होती है. In GS classes friendship happens, but then optional classes it doesn't happen, ठीक है? So be aware about it. Okay, so लिखो what you were writing. Small Japan, what you have written. So moreover, small Japan defeated Russia. Defeated Russia in 1905. In 1905. Then someone has written in optional class, speed is less than you. I just want to know who is your optional teacher. कितने साल में वो कोर्स खत्म करेंगे? दर्शन करा दो मेरे, मैं पैर छू लूंगा. सर महान हो आप, पुरुष नहीं हो आप. महापुरुष हो. So लिखो. Then mention educated Indians inspired Indians with this revolutionary ideas. For example, with this revolutionary ideas, educated Indians inspired Indians with this revolutionary ideas. For example, Lala Lajpat Rai. For example, Lala Lajpat Rai often quoted. For example, Lala Lajpat Rai often quoted the example of Italian revolutionaries like Garibaldi and Mazzini. Garibaldi and Mazzini. Then, so these names are basically you'll be reading in the world history. So world history mein Italy's unification is one of the topic, and in that you will read about their role. So now let's come to the next one. So after this revolutionary part, next likho policy of racial discrimination. Policy of racial discrimination. Ninth, huh? So the next one. So this is something which is already known to us, that this policy of, oh, what has happened? 1 minute. Okay? Now fine. So policy of racial discrimination. We are seeing it from very long time, policy of racial discrimination. So first of all, right from the beginning, British have perpetuated this thought of the white superiority. That Indians are the white man's burden and we are on a civilizing mission. So this is what they did. But when we look at their policies, so though many a times it seemed that they are opening the administration to Indians, but then these openings to the Indians were implied with many terms and conditions. Okay? So many terms and conditions, for example, let's take the example of the civil services itself. That when the civil services were thrown open to Indians, the process was made so difficult that not good number of Indians can enter into the civil services. For example, the syllabus was very difficult. In syllabus, Greek and Latin subjects, which were altogether alien for Indians. The maximum age to participate in the exam, earlier it was 21, and then by the time of the Lytton, it was reduced to 19 years. Then, moreover, exam was not conducted in India, it was conducted in Britain, so that the people belonging to the lower middle class and the poor class, even though they are intelligent, they cannot take the exam because they will have to go to the Britain. So these all processes made it so difficult for Indians to clear this exam. Then, so that is one thing, that though it is on paper, it is open to Indians, but in reality, it was near impossible for Indians to enter into the exams. Apart from it, there were many such favoritism also at that point of time. So racial discrimination was one of the feature right from the beginning. So racial discrimination also happened in the army. We have already discussed it. That also happened in the army. Racial discrimination was also there in many other provisions. So for example, later on when we are going to discuss about the press, so there we talk about one of the very extreme act of the British authority known as Vernacular Press Act. And this Vernacular Press Act of this 1878 was popularly known as Gagging Act of the Press. What is gagging? हिंदी में बोलते हैं गला घोंटू. ठीक है? So गला घोंटू Act of the Press. Then 1878 Viceroy Lytton, he has come up with one more policy, one more act, Arms Act of India. Then which was also targeted against Indian. So time and again we are seeing that majority of the policy measures of the government is targeted against the Indians on the basis of their race. So racial discrimination was right there from the beginning. And then one of the example of the racial discrimination, basically, we will write as a separate point, that is Ilbert Bill controversy. Okay? So that will be number 10. It is also an example of the racial discrimination, but then it is important. So we'll write it as a separate point. So mention, you write that right from the beginning, British perpetuated the idea of white superiority. The idea of white superiority. They often disregarded Indians as uncivilized lot and white man burden. Then their policies were reflection or aplenty likho. Their policies were aplenty with the racial discrimination features. For example, For example, Indian Civil Services, ICS लिखो. For example, ICS was not open to Indians till 1861. Was not open to Indians till 1861. But once it was thrown open to Indians, many terms and conditions were applied. For example, अब example के अंदर example. So you write maximum age. For example, maximum age to participate in exam was brought to 19 year in 1878. Was brought to 19 year in 1878, comma. Syllabus included alien subjects like Greek and Latin. Syllabus included alien subjects like Greek and Latin, and exam was not conducted in India. Then the other examples of racial discriminatory policy includes Vernacular Press Act of 1878, Arms Act of 1878. So these are the acts and the commissions. इनका टर्न आएगा डिस्कशन के लिए लेटर ऑन, ठीक है. सो लेट्स कम टू द सेकेंड लास्ट, ठीक है. सो मेंशन नंबर 10, यू राइट Ilbert Bill controversy. Ilbert Bill controversy. And so now listen, when it comes to Ilbert Bill controversy, what was it all about? So 1878, Lytton was the Viceroy of India, and he came up with all those policies which we have mentioned. Okay? After he is going back to Britain, the person who came to India was Viceroy Ripon. So Ripon was a thorough gentleman. He is often regarded as the father of the decentralization in India. And moreover, Ripon wanted that some more powers or more concrete powers must be given to the Indian members of the civil services. So he wanted that some sort of equality must develop between the Indian civil servants and so as the British civil servant. So this Ilbert Bill was introduced by Lord Ripon. I generally don't use the word Lord before the British Viceroys and Governor General, but he deserves the word Lord. Okay? Though it might be the British connotation that they are using all of them as a Lord, you know, they are very clever people, and English is the language of the cleverness. Then that Lord in our language means the God, and they have given the British exploiters as the name of the Lord. Then I would share one small story with you. There was one friend of mine way back, okay, and she cleared the exam. Her name also I'll tell you, because I asked her that can I share your name. So she was from Kerala, Adila Rabi Abdullah. Then whenever she used to write these answers of the modern Indian history, then she never used the word Lord before any of the Governor Generals. So then one fine day in the class itself, one of the faculty, he asked that why you are not writing the Lord before their name. So he said that my conscience does not allows them to write them as a Lord. Then they were not a Lord, they were bloody exploiters. They were bloody blood suckers. Then so I would never use, even if I don't get any marks for it, I will bear it. So such was her attitude. And then it was her first attempt. And there is a different story of her first attempt. But then she got a very good rank. She got the IS and she got the Kerala cadre also. So right now she is a personal secretary to the chief minister also. And she is a highly lauded officer in the Kerala due to her initiatives. So it's up to you that you're writing or not. But then I was also kind of using for some, not using for some. So for him, I used the word Lord. So Ripon, he introduced this Ilbert Bill. What was the intention of the Ilbert Bill? So it was going to abolish the judicial disqualification on the basis of racial distinction. Now it seems difficult, I know. That the intention of the bill was to abolish the judicial disqualification on the basis of racial distinction. What does it mean? अब ध्यान से समझना that judiciary members, okay, those people who were in the judicial services, they were also recruited to the ICS, meaning Indian Covenanted Civil Services. Then, so those members who are Europeans, okay, so Europeans had more power as compared to the Indian judicial members. For example, so the British judges had the power to try an Indian in the court and also a British in the court or any European in the court. But on the other hand, Indian judges of the court, they were not given the right of trying a British in the court or European in the court. So Indian judges can only deal with the Indian cases, not the cases with the British. So this is what is difference. And this is what we meant, that this particular bill intended to abolish judicial disqualification on the basis of racial distinction. What is judicial disqualification? Indians are disqualified to try the cases of the British. And how this is maintained? On the basis of the race. Indian race will not try British. Okay? British will only try British. So this is what he wanted to do. That Indian members must also be given the same power and they can also try the British. But then when this bill was introduced in the British Parliament, there was huge hue and cry in the British Parliament. Then huge uproar in the British Parliament. And then under the pressure of the British parliamentarians, this bill was modified. Then the original bill could never be affected. So now this particular controversy made it very clear to the Indians that they cannot expect justice and fair play, where the interest of the British is also involved at the same point of time. So जहाँ पे भी British का interest है, where that place you cannot expect fair play. But wherever their interest is not involved, वहाँ पे you can expect fair play, but not where their interest is also involved. So mention. It was introduced by Lord Ripon. Introduced by Lord Ripon. Then mention this bill intended to abolish judicial disqualification. This bill intended to abolish judicial disqualification on the basis of racial distinction. On the basis of racial distinction. Racial distinction. Then mention. In other words, it tried to give same judicial powers. In other words, it tried to give same judicial powers to the Indian members of judiciary, comma, as enjoyed by the European members, as enjoyed by the European members. And if this bill comes to effect, if this bill comes to effect, Indian judges will be entitled to try Europeans in the court, will be entitled to try Europeans in the court. Then पैराग्राफ चेंज करके लिखना, ठीक है. This bill led to huge uproar in British Parliament. This bill led to huge uproar in British Parliament. This bill led to huge uproar, UPROAR, in British Parliament. As such, under the pressure of British parliamentarians, bill was modified from its original version. Bill was modified from its original version. Then full stop. Then mention, it made very clear to Indians, that justice and fair play, very clear to Indians that justice and fair play cannot be expected. Justice and fair play cannot be expected from the British authority. Where the interest of their own community, is also involved. Interest of their own community is also involved at the same point of time. Then, so this is what is about the Ilbert Bill controversy, and this particular Ilbert Bill was also asked in the prelims exam. Okay? So they asked about the matter of the Ilbert Bill. Okay? So ये जो topic है, it seems like that it is mainly for the mains examination. 3 questions have come from this in last 10 years in the prelims exam. Okay? So let's go to the last part of this particular factors which favored the rise of nationalism. So इसको आधे आधे में करूँगा, but just listen. One more thing. In this last part, which is basically economic critique of the colonialism. Then, so economic critique of the colonialism, in this part, whatever we are going to cover, that will be also the part of the first phase of the freedom struggle. ध्यान से समझना. When in 1885 Indian National Congress is going to be created, so with the foundation of the Indian National Congress, first phase of the Indian freedom struggle will start, and this first phase is called as moderate phase. So when it comes to the contribution of the moderate leaders in the first phase, it is this contribution, economic critique of the colonialism. So since we are going to write it over here, there we will only mention a line. And whenever you are going to get a question, anything related to the contribution of moderate leader, the most important thing you will be writing is the economic critique of the colonialism. ठीक है? So इसको दिमाग में रखना. So write the last one, which is economic critique of the colonialism. Number 11, economic critique of colonialism. And this will include drain of wealth also, but that is the second part of this discussion. The first part is the colonization. Okay? So tell me, who was the most important person associated with the economic critique of colonialism? Two important personality. One is the Dadabhai Naoroji, who was also known as Grand Old Man of India. Second person, R.C. Dutt, okay, who wrote the economic history of India. Then from 1757 to 1857, he was the one who calculated that how much wealth has been drained from India, how much amount British have exploited. So R.C. Dutt, Ramesh Chandra Dutt. So these two were the most outstanding personality. But then there were many other people whose name we need to mention who were involved in the economic critique. So possible question in the prelims examination that which of the following people were associated with the economic critique. So they can give you the name of Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, who were not the part of it. Just example I'm saying then. So be specific, remember their names. So what are these names? So first Dadabhai Naoroji, then second is the R.C. Dutt, then Mahadev Govind Ranade. Apart from it, G.V. Joshi, Gopalakrishna Gokhale, Prithvish Chandra Ray, and then G. Subramania Iyer. So these only names. इसके अलावा और कोई नाम नहीं है, ठीक है? So these many names you need to remember. So they are the one who were the outstanding leaders of the economic critique of the colonialism. Now, so when it comes to the economic critique of the colonialism, these leaders, their major contribution that they were able to trace, ध्यान से सुनना, ठीक है? These all leaders, they were able to trace the colonization of the Indian economy in all the three layers. Once again, I am maintaining their most important contribution in this regard is that they were able to trace the colonization of the Indian economy in all its three layers. So you tell what are the three layers of economy. See, in economy classes, you read primary, secondary, tertiary sector, service sector. This is not we want in history. It's not wrong. ऐसा नहीं बोलेंगे कि wrong है, but यहाँ पे लिखने पे उससे कुछ marks नहीं मिलेगा. That these terminologies. So we will have to be very specific about those industries or about those things in the economy. I'll tell you. So these are TIF. What is T? Trade. I? Industry. F? बताओ? Finance. So elaborately we are going to discuss that how trade, industry and finance was colonized. पहले थोड़ा सा लिखो, mention. So you write. Dadabhai Naoroji was popularly known as Grand Old Man of India. Grand Old Man of India was the first and the foremost personality of economic critique. The next important personality was Ramesh Chandra Dutt. Not Ramesh, Ramesh. Okay? Ramesh Chandra Dutt, who wrote Economic History of India. Ramesh Chandra Dutt, who wrote Economic History of India. Full stop. The other notable leaders of economic critique included, so write these names: Mahadev Govind Ranade, G.V. Joshi, Gopalakrishna Gokhale, G. Subramania Iyer, and Prithvi's Chandra Ray. Prithvi's Chandra Ray. Then mention. These leaders were able to trace the colonization of Indian economy in all its three layers, that is trade, industry, and finance. So elaborate करेंगे हम लोग, trade में क्या है, industry में क्या है, what is how the finance was also dominated. ठीक है? So you can take break. After the break, we'll continue with this topic. We'll complete this topic today. But this is a big part. It takes a little bit of time. Okay? So this part also, and then we go into the theory of drain of wealth. Okay? So the surprise is over. There were few people who were not there last day. क्योंकि कल टेस्ट होने वाला था, तो लोग आए नहीं कि होगा नहीं, पर होना तो आज था. नहीं, आज जो नहीं आए वो उनकी किस्मत. ठीक है? So those who are here, you are supposed to write, and I would not say that कि मैं force नहीं करूँगा. Today I am forcing you to write. That you will have to write, and moreover, those who are not writing, they will be barred from one class. ठीक है? And that is the polity class, which will happen in the next way. So those who are not writing, उन्हें एक क्लास का कोई एक्सेस नहीं होगा. ठीक है? That is polity class in the next week. So anyhow you need to write today and submit today. ठीक है? So I'll give you the question, and there are few surprises in this one, in this particular. So I'll give you the question first. Discussion will go later. So meanwhile, you write your registration number and also your name, assignment code I'm giving you. Online also, you guys also need to write in the same way. So assignment code is 68630. 68630. And so time, I'm giving you little more time in this one. Okay, 15 minutes today, and moreover the word limit for this one. So you will not be using both the assignment sheets. How many you have got? One or two? So use only one. Try to fit your answer in one. कोशिश करना, अगर जो हो गया तो I'll tell you then. Word limit is 250 words. 250 words. And there is one more surprise in this one. So now understand. First you read the question. Tell me how you're finding it. The Indian Renaissance gave birth to not only socio-religious movements, but also affected every aspect of Indian life. Elucidate. So you just need to elaborate. So you need to think on the lines that what are the different aspects of the life, and then you need to write that what are the different aspects of the life on that line. This is the only hint I can give you. Moreover, the good thing about this question is that it is an open book answer writing. So that's why I have given you 15 minutes. You have all the scope to search the answer in your notes. If you want to refer to the books, you can refer to the books. It is up to you, but the time is just 15 minutes. So if you're done with your registration code and everything, let me know. I would start the stopwatch. I hope all of you are done. So I'm going to start the stopwatch. Should I? कितने दिनों में लिखोगे registration ID? चलो, I'm starting. So time starts now. It's a 12.5 marker. It's not 10 marker. It's a 12.5 marker. If your page exceeds, you can use the second page, but then let me know that you have used the second page. But कोशिश करना कि एक पेज में ही हो जाए. And second page पे भी नाम लिख देना जरूर से, if you are exceeding. And believe me, those who are not there in the class, it is their bad luck. So raise your hands who have used 2 seats. You have used 2 seats. 2 people, and C is also using the 2 seats. So just wait for a minute. 3 people or anyone else who has used the 2 seats. So why I asked that use the 1 seat, because this much space you'll be getting in the UPSC exam, and this much urgency must be there. So in urgency, what you are writing, that's the same thing you'll be writing in the main examination hall, and at the same point of time you'll not get the extra space, so you will have to fit your answer in that space, क्योंकि उसके beyond तुमको space नहीं मिलेगा. So बहुत calculated space होता है वहाँ पे. This much is fine for 250 words. ये जितना space इसमें दिया हुआ है, little bit of extra would be there in the UPSC. So this much is fine. If you're able to write 250 in this much, UPSC में आराम से लिख लोगे. So 10 assignment seats लेके आओ, blank. Are you done with it? ठीक है? ये मुझे दे दो, 10 assignment seats लेके आओ, blank. So raise your hands who all have not. फिर से दोबारा कितने लोगों को सेकेंड सीट use किया है? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So you are going to write the second question also. Yes. So second question is, the question is very simple, but the answer is difficult. Believe me. So you have used, yep, you have, no, you use this one. You also need, give it to him. And then someone in the back side. So in this question, you don't need to write your registration number, no assignment code, and only your name. Please write your name, just name. Who? You. And you also. पहले हाथ क्यों नहीं उठाया? So, you also want? And this is a 10 marker question, 150 to 170 words. This is why he was asking. That's how I asked 10 कम से कम. कोई और है जिसे सीट चाहिए? You guys are incorrigible. When I was asking, nobody said anything. पीछे दे दो. Anyone else from this side? Oh, so ये honest group है इस side पे. So now this is a 10 marker. Then you can write 150 to 170 words. But then, as the question seems that it is easy, but then let me ask one thing to you. Just a hint I would try to give you. The question is abhi likho nahi. What you'll be writing in the results? What it will include? ठीक है. So you can write in the results, there are two things. I'm giving you a hint, failures and the significance. Both. You need to decide that what all and less number of the points must be there. Since you need to prioritize that what points to be written, what is to be omitted. And what you'll be writing in the nature of the revolt. Yes? Yeah. So some of you are on the right track. I have done the discussion in the class. You need to infer from there. So now you start. And in this, you will only be writing your name, nothing else. No, this is not open book. This is just a 10-minute. So 12, this is just a 10-minute question. So your time starts now. Start writing. And this question is more about if you write in the points, that would be better. क्योंकि details ज़्यादा हैं, points में लिखना better होगा. More information you can incorporate. Done? So now time is over. Time is over. Please stop writing. All of you stop writing and listen to me. Stop writing. Backside also stop writing. Immediately do one thing. Take each other's copy. Who is there on your sides? Yeah, exchange your copies. Give it to him, give it to her, and exchange. Even if they are writing, take it. Take it. Take it. Don't let anybody write. Take your copies. And so now understand. Who all does not have got the partner? Whose copy is not submitted? Raise your hand. You got the partners, okay? As you have seen that UPSC has gone with a new trend whereby everything is in pairs. Then, so here there is a pair exchange. Now understand that tomorrow you have a off, then, and the answers of both would be uploaded. So this answer would be uploaded in the handout section of your class. Okay? Read the answer first and then evaluate your friend's copy. your colleague's copy. You need to be very specific. Now understand, you need to be very specific in this regard that you cannot give more than 6 marks to anybody. That's the highest that you'll be giving. If you're giving 6 marks, so onus would be on you that the person who is evaluating, he will explain to me that why he has given 6 marks to the person. Then, so you need to be very specific and don't go too hard on the people. Then, so look at the answer format. Answer would be very elaborate, but then answer may have, the format may have more than 500 words, but then you will have to extract that what is best extracted from this particular uploaded answer, and then उसमें से किसने अच्छा लिखा है. So why these two processes were there in the class? Now understand the purpose of these two questions. First of all, most of the time we have read a lot, but we don't know how to extract the information from what we have read, what is before us. So the first question was all about extracting the answer from what is there before you. That what all points you'll be extracting from your notes, your knowledge, your memory. That is the first exercise. Second exercise is that when you are going to evaluate somebody else's copy, so then you are more vigilant. Then you are more vigilant, and at the same point of time, you try to find out the faults in the other person. When you are trying to find out the faults and the good things in the other person, you also realize that what is needed from your part in your answer. So the second is more about a deductive reasoning. So that is needed to be developed. Moreover, after 4 or 5 classes, once again, some more new strategies would be there related to the answer writing in the classes. Then, so be prepared for it. And those who have not come today, if you're watching online, please submit it by today. I'm very serious about it, okay? Because you need to be serious about your exam. My seriousness will do nothing if you're not serious about your exam. Then, so even if you're writing in 2025, this is a golden thing for you. Then, so submit your answers by today, 4 o'clock, and then go ahead with this exercise. Moreover, the answer exchange which has happened. So online people must be asking that how we will exchange. So then what you need to do, you need to evaluate your own answer on the basis of what answer has been uploaded. But be very careful in this regard that how much marks you are going to give it to yourself. Then, so now you tell me how's the feel? Good or bad? Yeah, it must be there. Then, even if you have not written a very good answer, don't worry about it. The writing good answer comes from the writing bad answer. And we all learn from our own mistakes, and mistakes are actually very much necessary in our life. Then, it's not deliberately, but then it's not intentionally, but when it is happening, so then we remember that this mistake we will not repeat for the next time. So that's it. That's what is all about today's this answer writing exercise. Now we are left up with these topics which I started. So let's start with the trade, industry, and finance. Drain theory of wealth we'll do in the next class, and then after we'll start with the foundation of the Congress. Then, so let's come to the topic. What you have written. So listen. So these early nationalist leaders, should I continue or you want to leave? छुट्टी चाहिए? No, you decide. At least let me define. It will hardly take 10-15 minutes. मुझे 5 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा चाहिए, ठीक है? Just listen. क्योंकि लिख लिया है तो उसको define करने दो. So trade, industry, and finance, very easy to understand. First of all, how the trade of India was colonized. You have the answer. Trade of India was colonized by one-way free trade to the British people, to the British employees, and on the other hand, Indian traders. This thing we have talked time and again, even in 1857 also we mentioned. On the other hand, when Indian traders, their commodities are entering into any other market, so they were charged with the heavy duties, which made their product uncompetitive. So one-way free trade has led to the dominance of the British traders and their goods in India. On the other hand, Indian traders, they are facing the high price issues. So this way, they have colonized the Indian trade. Now, when it comes to industry, so the entire policy of the British East India Company or British was framed according to support the industries which were there in the Britain, because Britain was going through the industrial revolution. And what was the best place for the raw material supply? India. Okay, obviously cotton, jute, then coal, iron, everything was supplied from India. So British made India as a supplier of the raw material. On the other hand, their industries are developing and there was no policy support for the Indian industry to develop. Even if there were few Indian industry, they were facing the issue of the raw material because all the raw material is going to the Britain and British industries are supported. So this is the second thing, that they have colonized the industry of India. Then the third one, the final stage of the colonialism and the worst stage of the colonialism is the financial imperialism. Now here we have very good example from the contemporary times also. So financial imperialism, it mainly happened because of the development of the railways. Today we talked about the railways positive aspect, but there is a very big negative aspect of the railways. Then, so now understand, the development of the railways in India happened with entirely foreign capital. Not even a single penny of the Indian capitalist or Indian people was used in the development of the railway. So when somebody else is investing from Britain in the development of the railway, so he will try to accrue all the benefits of the railway in his favor. Then, moreover, for the development of the railways, large amount of the loans were taken from the British banks and British financial institution. And these loans which were taken, these public debt, were attracting very high interest rate. And from where? Not only the original amount is paid from the Indian revenue, but this very high interest rate is also paid from the Indian revenue. So this financial imperialism has further broken the wings of India, economic wings of India, and then it was the final stage of the imperialism. Now let's look at the examples at the present time. The biggest problem in the world, and moreover, the economic crisis in the world that we are seeing, Sri Lanka has gone almost, okay? It is almost debt-laden, and then moreover, their economy is in ruins. If there would not have been a country like India, so Sri Lanka would never have been able to resurrect itself. In fact, these cricket matches which are happening, why from last 2 times it is happening in the Sri Lanka? एशिया कप कहीं और कोई जगह नहीं है एशिया में जहाँ पे हो जाए, बट देन दिस इज अ सपोर्ट बिकॉज BCCI is a very powerful body and this is the support that they are extending to Sri Lanka. Many credit lines were extended to Sri Lanka, but why Sri Lanka is in this problem? Loan from where? China. Okay, the big problem is China. Then why our most trusted and loved neighbor Pakistan, okay, they are in ruins. It's because of the loan from China. Remember, in 2011, there was one scheme which was signed with the China and Pakistan, CPEC, okay? China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. $46 billion help was extended to Pakistan at that point of time, which turned out to be $65 billion by 2018. So 46 to $65 billion. Do you consider China as a saint? Are they giving this loan? They're doling out this as a kind of help to, or help to Pakistan, which they will never recover. It's a foolish thing. Okay? It is one way of the colonization of the economy of the Pakistan. It is very unfortunate that Pakistan people, basically the Pakistan political class, though they are understanding, it's not like that they are not understanding. But even after understanding, they are not understanding. Then, and what they are doing, they are making the best use of that money, and then they are teaching, they are facilitating their children, their offsprings, and then moving out of the Pakistan. They would be living in the luxury, the people of the Pakistan would be in the ruins. So their problem. Moreover, one of the very helpful hand to the Pakistan has been Saudi Arabia. You remember Saudi Arabian Prince Salman, he was so offended with one of the comment of the Imran Khan that immediately they asked that Pakistan must pay $2 billion loans. And in fact, when Imran Khan was there in Saudi Arabia, he did not meet him. And in fact, General Bajwa was there in the Saudi Arabia, even he was not allowed to meet him. So no country is a saint. The very first thing every country will do, it will think about the good of their own people. Then, so entire world is right now, those who have taken the loans, and particularly from China, okay, they are in ruins. And in this G20, you connect all the things. Why that African Union, incorporation of the African Union in the G20 was very important? It is called as the Global South. Then, and the Global South will be further, okay, it will be further relieved from the loan processes which are coming from the China if they are incorporated in this multinational organizations. So look at this. So debt crisis, and in fact China deals with that debt diplomacy. You'll be reading in your international relation debt diplomacy. So this is what we call financial imperialism, and this is what we can say that this is the neo-colonization, the new way of colonizing the major countries of the world through finances and the doling out loans to the people. So that's what is it. And this is what was done in India also through the railways and many other infrastructure projects. देखो problem rise नहीं होता इंडिया में if the Indian capital would have been used. So someone can ask that at that point of time there were no rich people in India, that's why they did not used. Some liberal people will say, liberal historians will say that no rich people were there in India, so how come they will get the capital? It's a farce. It's a false statement. The richest person in the world in 1947 was the Nizam of Hyderabad. Then, so India still had a plenty of the rich people, very rich class. Then they could have invested. Then, but then British deliberately did not use Indian money for the development of the railways. And you know, one more thing I need to tell you, that when there is a financial aspect, loans are given, investment from the other countries are coming. So it also creates vested interest. I'll tell you what is the best example of the vested interest. So for example, nuclear power plants. बहुत ध्यान से समझना इसको. And this is a real story which I'm telling you. So nuclear power plant scenario of India. 2007 was the year when the nuclear supply agreement was signed between India and USA. Manmohan Singh Ji was the Prime Minister of India, and at that point of time, the US President. Then, so I think US President was George Bush. Then, so this was concluded, and after this, there was a new episode which was going to open in India. But then, many such other companies of the nuclear power plant, they started operating, the French Areva plant and Russian VVR plant at Kudankulam. But then, American company was not able to operate in India, despite this agreement was there with the America. Why so? The reason is that the demand of the security for the investment. अब ये word use कर रहा हूँ, security for investment. Now understand, nuclear power plants are a risky business. Then risky business. So American companies, what they are saying that if they are going to invest $5,000 rupees, 5,000 crore rupees in India. So in case of any unfortunate event, they need the security for the investment, and that security for the investment would be 6,000 crore rupees. So their investment is 5,000 and they are asking for 6,000 crore. What is it? Meaning कि मान लो कुछ हो गया, कोई protest movement हो गया, किसी ने एक grenade चला दिया, ठीक है, nuclear power plant पे. Now it is ruined, and then when it is ruined, so they need not only their base amount, but they also need that their time investment amount, which is 1,000 crore extra. So now understand, there are many fishy points in this one, that West cannot be believed at their words. Why so? Because most of the time, connect karna is cheez ko, most of the time there are n number of the protest and movement in India which are funded by the Western organization. Very recently, you must have heard about one person, George Soros. You read about him? He funds many movements all over the world in the name of the democracy. There is nothing to do with the democracy, and that it is all about the dominance of the Western world on the Oriental world. So he funds those activities in the name of the democracy. He funds many such movements and the protest. Similarly, in India also many organization based in the European part of the world, they fund protest and movement. In fact, suppose there is a nuclear power plant which is operating in India and it is a company from US, it itself funds our activity, protest and movement, because they will fund 1 year development has happened, they will fund somebody to protest and movement, and they will also fund that somebody must hurl a grenade on their equipments, grenade on their establishment. Once it is destroyed, so they have, by this point of time, they have just invested, एक साल में कितना invest किया है? 500 crore rupees, and when the establishment is destroyed, what they will get? 6,000 crore rupees. You get? This is the best investment plan for any country. This is what we are calling vested interest. It has happened in the world. So that is what is the reason. And in fact, whenever now understand, when the railways developed, whenever the revolutionary movements were happening, whenever people were that creating obstruction on the railways, and then they have destroyed some railway lines. So uska double amount was going to the Britain, to the British capitalists they were demanding. So this was the worst stage of the colonialism. Now mention, you're right. So पहले लिखो trade. Trade में लिखो, there was one-way free trade. There was one-way free trade for British in India from very long time. There was one-way free trade for British from very long time. Then on the other hand, Indian traders were charged with heavy duties which made their products. Indian traders were charged with heavy duties which made their products uncompetitive. Then uncompetitive. Then mention further. Next point. Industry. Industry as a title. The entire British policy was shaped to serve the interest of British industries. India was reduced to mere supplier of mere supplier of raw material, and the Indian nature industries were not given any support. Then number 3, finance. It was the final stage of colonization. Which led to financial imperialism in India. Full stop. Then you write. Best example is development of railways. Which entirely happened with investment from British capitalist. Full stop. It created vested interest, VESTED. It created vested interest, and these British capitalists demanded hefty money for security of investment. So this is what is about this particular, that colonization in the trade, industry and finance. So we are left up with one more topic. It needs 20 more minutes, but then I do have a class and you want off. So we'll do it on Sunday. Okay? And by Sunday, please evaluate the copies. So come up with the evaluated copies and do pehla wala we will be evaluating. Okay? Chalo, thank you.